All right. Okay, so hello. We're on the last chapter of the Desikachar book. And so we'll discuss that first, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to start with just a little PowerPoint to help us stay organized with the material. So the last chapter is the many paths of yoga. Jnana yoga is the yoga of knowledge. And these are according to, of course, the ancient texts that we've received, that we've been learning from. So Jnana yoga is the yoga of knowledge. It's traditional knowledge passed usually from teacher to student and on a one-on-one basis in the guru system. Teacher would explain yoga texts, students would reflect and discuss it for clarification, and all knowledge lies within us for us to discover. Also, the study of scripture, which is what the ancient yoga texts are, but more than that, more than just on yoga, also other writings. And then Bhakti yoga is the yoga of devotion. Bhaj is the root for Bhakti, which means to serve a power greater than ourselves. It's connected to the practice of Ishvara Pranidhana, which we discussed a little bit last time. And we serve the divine being, which is a source of help and guidance. And just to review first, Ishvara is this all-knowing, doesn't make mistakes. He is all-powerful. And really, it sounds like God is what it sounds like, that description. We offer our thoughts and actions to the higher power. We see God in all things and in all people. And Bhakti yoga is the yoga of devotion to the divine being. And just a little side note here from my experience. I feel like religion and God have mixed responses from people, right? Not everybody is open-minded to involving God in a yoga practice. So in order to cover all bases, I will usually refer to higher power or greater intelligence or ultimate consciousness. And I find that those generally are okay. It's not fully consistent with my personal beliefs. I believe that God is an individual and that he is a exalted being, a perfect being, but he is an individual. So I kind of put that aside and I don't try to preach that. So I like to keep it general and more accessible to people. And part of that is not necessarily because people are godless. It's more of the association of God to religion and the faults and frailties of religion as it has been practiced through the ages. Like, for example, I know you're Catholic, right, Kyla? Yeah, but some people have a problem with Catholicism because of all of the bad publicity, with the priests. And then the Crusades. Some people have a problem with the Catholics and the Crusades. With indigenous people have a problem with the Catholics and the way that they tried to take over their culture, and is like the American Indians, and even in the Philippines, they were Catholic occupied for a long time. So in order to not bring up any of those thoughts or feelings in the minds of people, I just keep it general and like this. And personally, I feel like this is what has helped to continue to pursue a spiritual life without people getting tripped up over the frailties and the mistakes of human beings who are involved in religion. So it's almost healing, almost, because it can return people to the experience of spirituality without all of the baggage of religion. And I try to explain sometimes, if we do get into that discussion, and it's usually in teacher trainings, that religion is separate from spirituality, that God is not religion. He is also separate from religion. And that seems to help. But putting more of the emphasis on the experience of our spirits and returning to the experience of our individual spirits has been beneficial, and I think people even welcome it. They find that it helps them, it helps their lives. So that's just my little bit on that. And then bhakti yoga is, I really enjoy bhakti yoga. So on a personal, kind of a little glimpse into my personal practice, like during meditation, there are moments when I can just feel love and devotion for God. And it's very pure feeling, and it fills my heart, and it feels really good to just think about how much I love God. And there have been wonderful moments of meditation when I would just sit and I would, receive messages of love from God as I sit in meditation. And so it's become this relationship that I have with him. And for me, it kind of started, the shift and this kind of devotion started when I needed to learn that my earthly father was not my only father, that I actually have a heavenly father, and that he is way more dependable than my earthly father and loves me. So that's kind of from my personal life that I've developed that relationship, and I've looked to him for what you kind of would look to an earthly father for: guidance, inspiration, comfort, peace, love, reassurance. And he always delivers. He has not disappointed me, even sometimes correction, but it's always loving. So something to consider, in your own meditation, in your own practice, is just having your heart be open to that feeling, to that communion with the higher power. I really feel like it's what makes yoga such a blessing, really, for all people. And it's kind of a gift that India has given us, this knowledge of how to commune. Okay, mantra yoga, the repetition of text. So this is an important practice, I feel like, because I feel like we all have inner dialogue. And the source of that inner dialogue is varied. It can be something we heard from a teacher. It can be the words from our parents. It can be something that someone said to us, whether good or bad, positive or negative. These phrases, these sentences, these ideas that repeat themselves in our minds, and we are oftentimes unaware that they are there. I mean, I've even found myself having negative, like judgy thoughts or snotty thoughts, about people. When I'm not feeling particularly good about myself, for example, right? We we have them. I feel like everybody's got some collection of phrases that will turn on in our mind like a record player without us being aware of them. And that's another great benefit of the yoga practice and meditation practice, is becoming aware of what those inner dialogues are. And then being discriminatory, realizing to yourself, hey, that wasn't a very nice thought. Or you're not being kind to yourself, like self-criticism. Those are really important to recognize, because we can unknowingly be making ourselves feel bad about ourselves. So taking a step back, learning to be in the observer seat of our own mind, of our own inner dialogue, we can be discriminatory. We can kind of clean things up inside of our mind, right? And then mantra is actually being proactive about what kinds of things we want to run through our minds. So positive mantras. In our modern day, that's become affirmations. It's one of those new age type of practices that, is promoted. And so recitation of mantras can create a different mindset. You can deliberately choose what kind of things you want to play over and over in your mind. So you can promote a certain quality or trait, bring about change, or simply for comfort. Choosing mantras requires self-knowledge of who you are and who you want to be. We can change the inner dialogue that plays repeatedly in our minds. So just as an example, sometimes I will have anxious thoughts, anxious feelings, right? If I get myself into that mode. Sometimes for me, just Om Namah Shivaya, I don't know if I've mentioned that before, will help me kind of get out of that. And to me, of course, Shiva is God, Heavenly Father. So I did mention that, I remember now. But also memorizing scripture, you read scriptures, is really helpful. Or when you study scriptures, certain scripture phrases can come back to your memory when you need them. Consciousness is wonderful that way. So mantra practice is a way of incorporating, deliberately incorporating uplifting, positive, supportive, helpful, inspiring thoughts in your mind. Okay, questions on that? It's a lot of talking a lot. Okay, Raja Yoga, kingly yoga. So I've heard this described in different ways, but I did appreciate how Desikachar explained it. It's a path towards Ishvara, right? If you think about it, we are approaching the King of Kings, if we're talking about Jesus Christ, and we are all princes and princesses, right? We are all kings in embryo. So another way is recognizing something inside of us that is greater than we consider ourselves to be. The king, or the king within, sorry, I misspelled that, or Purusha. We can refer to the divine being as connected to Bhakti Yoga. Path is a path towards accepting Ishvara. When the mind has become master of the senses and we have clarity and peace, then Purusha has taken the rightful place as the king within, meaning our spirit, meaning the best part of us, the eternal, wise, compassionate part of us. Any thoughts, questions? I'm talking a lot. You guys can help You can talk.
Can you hear me?
Huh?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Any thoughts?
I'm just wondering now why the Catholics, especially the hierarchy, they do not like yoga. It's maybe
Oh, it's may
hospitals with the staff,
it's maybe what? I missed a few words there, Manny. Can you repeat yourself?
because in the practice of Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, your relationship with God is personal, direct.
Yes.
Through Brahmacharya, you are trying to protect yourself to be connected to God. In this case, among the Catholics, you don't need the priest. You don't need to confess to him. You don't really need that because your relationship with God is direct.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
no wonder you don't like.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's interesting because like when I go to a Catholic church, I feel really reverent and I admire the devotion of Catholics. And I I feel something spiritual there. But I haven't been as involved with the Catholic Church, so I don't have a lot of experience as far as what they're really what they really approve of and don't approve of. So, but just kind of as an outsider, I can appreciate the devotion, but I think it also depends on the person. My mom was very spiritual in her own way, but she didn't necessarily know all of the rules of being Catholic. She was Catholic most of her life. And but she was very devoted to God. She was very faithful. So I think it depends, but yeah, I see what you mean as a religion, right? As an organization. And that can be problematic. So all right, so thank you for that. So Kriya Yoga is tapas svadhyaya ishvara pranidhana. So tapas is discipline, heat, refining fire. It can be going through challenges. It can be challenging yourself. Personally, when I'm in a very difficult pose, I'm starting to sweat and I'm working really hard, I remember tapas, and it helps me to persevere because I recognize that it's good for me, and it helps me to feel at ease in that challenge because I know that it's part of the path. Svadhyaya, self-study, seeking knowledge, engaging in inquiry. Ishvara pranidhana is action dedicated to a divine being without attachment to outcomes. So that last part is also important, is not having that attachment to the results. So it's an act of giving and not without expecting a reward. So it's kind of purifies intention, I feel like. Right? It makes it so that you don't have the agenda. Then you can do good things for its own sake. And that's a wonderful attitude to take, especially when you're teaching, because you're giving this gift. Any thoughts on that? No. Okay, Hatha Yoga. Ha stands for moon, Tha means sun. So Hatha is that um, combination of the sun and the moon. Ha represents the Ida Nadi, which passes through the left nostril. Tha represents the Pingali Nadi, which passes through the right nostril. And the Shushumna is the central channel that the Ida and Pingali, they wrap around like this. They snake up and up. And at each intersection is the chakras. And so Hatha Yoga is an energetic approach to practice that aims to clear those channels so that the energy flows freely. And of course, we've talked about the chakras and what they mean. So as you go through these different ideas, they're psychosocial ideas. At the base is your support, and you have the creative power, you have the determination, the courage, you have the heart, which is emotions and compassion, speaking your truth, wisdom, and then connecting to higher power. So as you think about those ideas, and kind of address them in your life, like figure out, okay, I need a little more of this, I'm a little too much of this, like maybe I need a little more courage, maybe I need to speak my truth more. That's, to me, is one way of clearing the channels. So making a deliberate effort to balance these different elements in your personality and in your life. But also physiologically, when we cultivate the hips, the opening, the grounding, the core, the heart opening, the throat opening, and then the breathing up the central channel, and then the meditation, which brings you up into the higher chakras, then energetically, we're also clearing those channels. Yeah? Questions, everybody? Is that all coming together in your mind? Yeah. Kyla? Yeah. Okay. Kundalini, I feel like is related to Hatha Yoga. It's that imaginary snake at the base of the spine. So when the Sushumna is clear of blockages and impurities, then the prana flows freely, not just through the central channel, but also through the rest of the body. And if you think about it physiologically, if your spine is clear and the communication is unhindered, then the nerves from your nerve endings to every cell in your body, the communication is more efficient if your spine is nice and lengthened and open and the channels are flowing freely, right? So the central channel is considered the ideal place for prana to flow. This is also described as being possible through the union of Ida and Pingali lines. Impurities can also be avidya, which is darkness in your mind, such as the clearing of false beliefs, which allows for the prana to flow more freely. Okay? Tantra Yoga is the last one. This is very interesting. I want you to tell me what you think Tantra Yoga is, because I know that it has kind of a rep out there in the yoga world. Have heard of Tantra Yoga?
Yeah.
Yeah? What have you heard? What do you know about it?
Especially what they call the tantric sex.
Yeah, right? That's kind of what it's about out there in the world. Have you heard of that too, Kyla?
Yeah, sure. It's more
I have. I just wasn't sure if we were talking about the same thing. So
Well, it's part of it. It's part of it. But at the philosophically, now I'm not, obviously not something I practiced or have been exposed to. I've just heard of it just here and there. But the idea behind it is to allow yourself to experience pleasure. And pleasure is not just sex, there's other pleasures, right? And then if you go one step further, it's listening to what your body needs. Relaxation by listening within. And it puts you in the driver's seat of your own practice. You're listening to your body, you're practicing feeling good in your body, and the objective is to attain complete relaxation. And I found this website, which I thought was really interesting, because it's somebody who, oh, let me see, mindbody.com articles, traditional. Let me see if I can, well, let me go to the last one and then I'll look for that article so we can. Well, no, we got to go through this. Okay, mind, body. Let's see, stop share. Let me find this first, okay? Mindbodygreen.com, traditional Tantra Yoga, everything you need to know. Okay, let me find that article first. Okay, everything you know about traditional Tantra Yoga. Okay, let me share screen so you can see this. Share. Okay, it was very interesting. I gave this a quick read, and she actually took a Tantra Yoga class in India. And what it was basically a teacher at the back of the room just encouraging you to practice in a way that feels good for your body. So what I associate that to is intuitive practice, intuitive personal practice, when you just kind of do on your own, sort of like what you did the other day that you're telling us about, Kyla. You were just kind of moving to where it felt good. In this kind of yoga, the teacher is not telling you, okay, now do this, now do that. The teacher is helping you guide yourself through a practice. And so that was her experience of Tantra Yoga. Quiet the mental chatter, learn to be comfortable with silence, put aside flexibility or physical fitness as the end goal. Lean into pleasure, so what feels good. Not talking about sexual pleasure. So tantric principles state that all things in life should give you pleasure. Everything you do should give you pleasure. Therefore, if you're in a class where the teacher is insisting that you stay or come out of an asana before your body has received all the pleasure it can, then you're not in control of your practice. And if you're not in control of your practice, then who is? So follow your own path. Tapping into the subconscious, which is interesting too. We can discover our true selves. When we know our true selves, we can live our best selves. So breathe and release the conditioning that keeps us from our true pleasure. We must learn to stand on our own and take back our lives. So I thought that was really insightful. Okay, thoughts on that? Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right, so which of these forms of yoga appeal to you? This is something for you to think about. Which one, if any, are you most connected to? If you had to create your own type of yoga, what elements would it contain and why? And what type of yoga, what type or types of yoga do you want to learn more about? So I want you to think about that for yourself. Which of these, and if there's other ideas that are important to you, what are those? What type of practices or objectives would you want to address if you were to create a type of yoga? Okay, I'm going to read from real quick. This is the book Teaching Yoga by Mark Stevens. Let me find this page. Shucks, I left that page. Page 20. Okay. He discusses all of the different yogas that have come from India, just like we did. And then at the very end, he says, a teacher's palette of styles. The various practices of yoga have continually evolved, creating many paths, which every hatha yoga style or lineage today is a fusion of approaches that came before. Many approaches have tapped into insights from outside the yoga world, drawing from various forms of dance, as well as gymnastics, martial arts, physical therapy, and functional anatomy to further develop and refine their approach. It says here, each style and tradition has something to offer. How it is offered is often just as significant as the style itself. The best teachers are those attuned to their students' needs and capable of teaching in a way that addresses those needs while safely introducing them to new challenges and possibilities. And it says, no matter your perspective in relation to gurus, systems, and approaches, what will always most define you as a teacher is how you choose to relate as a human being with your students. With compassion, knowledge, and skills, you will be the best teacher you can be. Right, so think about that. And I am going to share with you something that I really feel is important as far as yoga goes, and that is the idea of embodiment. Okay, so embodiment comes from the developmental theory of embodiment, which is a psychology theory, positive psychology, and it's about how we view our bodies or how we learn through our bodies. That's particularly important to me because I feel like in kinesiology, of course, is an intelligence that some of us are more kinesthetic than others. And through the use of kinesthetics in learning, we can actually develop ourselves in a deeper way, right? So head knowledge is one thing, but being embodied, having that knowledge be experienced in our physical body is it's a different level of learning. And as I remember, we were just talking, Kyla and I, before you came, or before we got you on audio. Manny is she was telling me how she was stuck in the room with her students this past week. You teach first graders, right? Yeah, and so because of the rain, they had to stay inside and they couldn't go out to recess. And they could feel that. They feel restless because children particularly are high in the kinesiology learning need. They have a high need to learn physically, not just because they're still growing, but because it's part of how they experience the world. So embodiment is that idea that our physical body is not just something that carries around our brain. It's actually something that we learn through and we experience the world through. So the principles of embodiment are helpful because of how the mistreatment of our physical body leads to so much suffering in the world, in my opinion. A big part of that, of course, is promiscuity. So much suffering involved in that. You know, I don't know if I need to go into it, but I think we all understand that at our level of maturity, and not just, I mean, I watched it in other people and how it, and I hate to say it, men, you know, when they're not faithful, how it wreaks havoc on their families, wreaks havoc on their wives. So just the way that our body is, we treat our bodies, we treat other people's bodies, you know, physical abuse, and then things that we inflict on ourselves, something called self-objectification, when we base our value on our physical appearance. And we see this in the Western culture, where people go through extreme efforts to have the perfect body, to have the perfect face. I feel like that causes a lot of suffering. And it's that over identification with the prakriti, with the physical world, that can lead to so many errors, and suffering. So for me, the principles of embodiment help to bring that physical experience to a more healthy endeavor. So for example, let's see, let me find it here. The 5 dimensions of experience embodiment construct include body connection and comfort, agency and functionality, experience and expression of desire, attuned self-care, and inhabiting the body as a subjective site, resisting objectification. So let's relate. So if I were to relate this to yoga one at a time, body connection, that yoga is all about body connection. Feel your breath at the beginning of class. Feel what's working, what's not working. Feel the stretch. It's laden with the experience of connection to your body. Comfort, right? We don't want to hurt ourselves. We do challenge ourselves, but it's within reason. So the principle of ahimsa, and also the rest, or not the shavasana, but the counter poses that minimize any negative effects. Like after you do a deep back bend, you do a gentle forward fold. So that principle addresses this idea of comfort, agency, and functionality. So agency is another interesting one, where you give your students choices and you invite them to perform the different poses. You give them options. One thing I like to say in my classes is that they always have a choice in the class. I'm guiding them, I'm directing them, I'm cueing them, but they always have a choice in the class. So hopefully that promotes the idea that they have free agency. Functionality is a focus on how your body performs, or how your body is, what your body is able to do versus what you look like. So it's a emphasis on, wow, I can squat. Wow, I can hold this pose for a while, or I can sit in a chair pose, or I can do this back bend. So the emphasis is on the function and the abilities, as opposed to appearance and how you look. So experience and expression of desire, well, we kind of went through that with the Tantra yoga, listening to your body, and this is best in a personal practice setting, right? When you're not having to follow along with the class. Attuned self-care, again, listening to your body, taking care of your body, not just in the asana practice, but in pranayama, and also nutrition, rest, and all of that, sleep. Inhabiting the body as a subjective site, resisting objectification. So subjective meaning you're not just a physical body. You are multidimensional. You have a personality. You're important. You're of infinite worth just because you are a living soul. Okay. All right. So that's my particular not necessarily what I always harp on in a class, but that's what's at the foundation of my teaching. as well as other things. But that if I had to encapsulate it in a set of ideas, that I like that one a lot. But I also feel very connected to bhakti yoga and Ishvara Pranidhana mantra. I feel like hatha yoga is more of a technique and a tool, but as far as my own personal inner experience, it's in bhakti and Ishvara Pranidhana. So I wanted to tell you that so that you would get an idea of how you can start to put together your own foundation for your teaching. And it can always change. And it will change all our lives, I feel like. Like I used to be much more vinyasa based, and now I'm more hatha based. I used to not like to hold poses as long. But as my body has changed, now I really enjoy holding poses for a longer period of time. I like to feel my muscles engage while I'm still. Before, I would rather keep flowing when I was younger. Maybe that was just 5, 7 years ago, actually. But my body is different now. So my experience of the asana practice has gone in a little bit of a different direction, but that's okay. I mean, I can still flow and I can still teach flow, but recognize that these are evolving practices for you personally and also as a teacher, that you can continue to evolve, right? And there's no right or wrong, it's just a part of growth. So I want to just give you a moment to share some of your ideas, something that maybe prompted your thoughts. If you want to share anything.
Hatha yoga is a very, I mean, hatha yoga is a good practice not only for us teaching people, but especially for those who are young, who just yet to discover their strength and weaknesses. And you know what? I did some hatha yoga. One day hatha yoga, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, we do the vinyasa with the big pose. Because of the hatha yoga, focusing on specific muscles. So the rate of success when you do the vinyasa with the big pose is higher compared to just purely vinyasa. So hatha is a good tool for you to not only the energy, the meditative state for our pupils, but also setting you up for a higher level of body awareness. So when you want to do a big pose, because of that awareness, it can bring you to that pose. Because big poses are not just purely physical. You need to incorporate the mental side of doing it. Like if it's unbalancing, the biggest factor, like many people cannot do it is because of fear or blank face. So when you're aware of your body, those fears will not necessarily disappear, but you can control. You can be more courageous.
And you
Feel
can
more confident about your body.
feel more confident. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. How about you, Kyla? Any thoughts?
I would say I definitely, similar to you, I definitely like feel that like bhakti yoga is very important for me. Even if I feel like a little disconnected from God, like I'll set like an intention, during the beginning of my practice, like this is like I'm in a way praising you and showing gratitude for like my body and my mind, what you've given me, and feeling that, connection. And I do really feel connected, especially after and when I am like mindful and setting that as, this is why I'm doing this and you allow me to do this, so I'm grateful. So definitely in the spiritual sense, I do feel like not everyone takes well, like in, modern times, like I don't think everyone takes yoga in a spiritual sense, but I do find for me it is important to my spirituality. And just even, I think Manny said something, was it last week? He said something, I really liked what he said, but he was like, something like you turn a work in and make it into a workout or something. He said something.
Who said that?
Manny said something like you take the
Oh,
work. I don't know how he said it,
oh.
but he basically said they he was basically saying people are only interested in the physical aspect of yoga. And they don't really see, what are the emotional, mental, spiritual, like, benefits of the practice. So for me, it really is deeply rooted for me in my, mental, spiritual, emotional health. And so I do like to make sure that I don't just like to feel like I'm lugging my body around, So I feel like that's what I got out of what we talked about today.
Yeah, good. So yeah, so I encourage you to continue to explore like different experiences of the practice, and enrich your own experience of yoga. And it's not necessarily that we will expect that of our students, but as the teacher, that's what you bring, whether you're explicit about it or not. And they'll be able to sense it at a subconscious level. That, yeah. And uh-huh.
From the teacher's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
all those the bhakti, jhana, all those types of yoga, I think it's very important for the teachers to give it and internalize it. Because you cannot really expect the students, but if the teacher is behaving, there are certain things about yoga. There are certain rules, if I might call it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to embody that. That's what you said before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I have noticed some teachers with no scruples. Very, very hard for us to project a good image of yoga if we ourselves are not embodying the teachings of yoga. And to me, I've dismissed many teachers because of tardiness, absences, and stuff like that. So I think one I can summarize it in one word. We have to show some scruples. We have to be a good example to our students. We have to show that. You don't have to preach, you just have to live it.
Yeah.
As you said, embody it.
Yeah.
The teachings of yoga.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And so the next thing I wanted to do was I started reading the Yoga Sutras here at Manny's suggestion because you said you really liked it, and I do like. Have you read the Yoga Sutras, Kyla, in the Heart of Yoga? Yeah. Okay. So
These are the ones that I read because it was already in the book.
right. So I wanted to just bring up a few things of discussion here that I found valuable. But I think we'll take a little break just because, yeah, I'm gonna just do discussion today. Probably not gonna have time to practice, but let's take a 5-minute break, and then that's what we'll do next is a discussion of the Heart of Yoga Sutras, and then we will also talk about your sequences that you were gonna do. And I'm going to show you, Manny sent me his spreadsheet, and we'll look at that together because it's really nicely done, and I'll show that to you. And then we'll talk about that, how you're going to teach that, which will be your next assignment. So let's go ahead and take like a 5-minute break. Come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll go on. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording too.
Yeah,
Hold it.
so some of them, were surprised when but when then I asked them the next day to do some very difficult, challenging poses because of the hatha yoga. They were able to they succeeded in doing those poses.
So maybe that encouraged them to be more open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At first, they were really surprised.
Mhm.
They were resisting the,
Holding the
in
poses.
hatha, you hold the pose for 5 to 8 breaths and sometimes 10 breaths.
Yeah. Well, I must say that my students, because they've been with me for so long, they've been with me for about, I guess about 8 years. Some of them for 10 years. The studio is 11 years old. So, and I was there from the beginning. They can hold poses now because we've been practicing together for so long, they can do it. So I guess I didn't realize that it's true. It's hard to hold the poses, and I used to not be able to do it as much, but yeah, I can, yeah. So interesting.
And then those classic poses, I told them, be serious in those classic poses because those are the poses that can lead you to the more challenging poses. The warriors, very, very important. I'm giving them that kind of.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And they can be seen as boring for some.
Yes.
So, yeah, so there's the discipline there, the mental discipline of being able to stay focused, even if it's not as fancy. So I was asking him about how meditation is received as a practice or if it's incorporated in the classes there in Philippines. So do you feel
I try to take them out by telling them that's going to be a pranayama practice, but actually it's meditation using the breath as a way to meditate. But I don't tell them like 10-minute pranayama practice, but actually it's meditation.
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
mindful meditation because you use the breath to meditate.
Right.
If you mention the word meditation, there is some resistance to it.
So they still is a maybe a little bit of association with a specific following.
Yeah, because they think that you are going to block your mind. And the devil will come in if you block your mind. That's what the Christians or the Catholics believe. So I do not want to go against it.
Scare
that's
them.
what they
Yeah.
believe in. So I just tell them you are not actually, removing your mind. You just have to internalize. You just have to refocus your thoughts into you.
Are they comfortable with Sanskrit mantras?
As much as possible, I do not.
No.
Because
of the association with Hinduism.
Yeah. Especially the language itself.
How about Om? Chanting Om.
Especially Om.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Before I did that, there was some resistance.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's okay. It's okay. It's important to know your population, to know your people. How do they open and close a class then? Do they just like jump right into it, or is there
I call it instead of intention setting or centering yourself into the practice.
Okay.
But sometimes I give them some thoughts, some ideas.
Yeah.
Like the last time I did a warrior sequence, our theme then was Swajaya. In all the poses, try to know your body, learn more about your
self-study. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's good. So did you read all of the sutras in the Heart of Yoga too, Manny, have you finished all
Yeah,
four? Okay,
the first two. The
first two, okay.
Yeah, the first two. Samadhipada and
So Pada 1 and Pada 2.
I read it years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it stuck on my mind because this is simpler. I've seen the other books on Yoga
The
Sutras,
sutras,
and they
yeah.
seem to be esoteric. I like the way he explained it. It's friendly to me.
Yeah, I like it too. It's the first time I've read this one. So I like it too. So I wanted to just do a few points of discussion. So on page 166, it talks about misapprehensions.
Because I'm reading an ebook.
Oh,
is that what Yoga Sutra number
2.3. 2.3, yeah. So we taught the Pada 1 talks all about the objective of yoga as being the mind. And then Pada 2 talks about the obstacles. And we kind of touched on those last lecture when we did chapter 12, 13, I think. But here it talks about misapprehensions as the main obstacle and confused values, excessive attachments, unreasonable dislikes, and insecurity. And I just wanted us to think for a second about a moment in time when we had our something that we held on to, like some kind of basic understanding, was challenged somehow, or we realized we were wrong about something. Because that's a lot of the discussion in this Pada 2 is about handling those misapprehensions, about handling those obstacles. And it talks about misapprehensions as being the main obstacle to progression. And misapprehensions are, the definition of it is
What
mistake,
page are you?
huh?
Page are you?
166.
2.2,
2.3, 2.4, 2.5. That's where we are. So misapprehensions are mistaken beliefs about or interpretation of something. So any mistaken belief, anything that we believe and then we realize, oh, I was wrong. So I want you to think about you personally in your life. If there was any time when you had believed something for so long, caused so much problems in your life, and then you realize that you were wrong about that. And I'll give you an example. For example, this is kind of from my personal life. So Saul, my husband, he is Hispanic and he has his own temperament. Hispanics apparently tend to be pretty fiery and intense. And I feel like he is particularly intense as far as Hispanics go. I think he's above average of intensity and temperament. So I used to always think that he was angry. Like, why are you so angry? Why? But it's not anger, it's passion, which are a little bit different. So it took me a long time, many years before I could learn. And I still am not always good at handling it because he comes on so strong and he comes on so hot. And I just don't always, and I'm different. I'm mellow, I'm calm, I'm serene. So we have these opposites going on in our personalities. But for a long time, when I used to think that he was angry, I would react to that. And it would cause contention when that's not what he meant. He wasn't meaning to be angry. So that's, I think, a misapprehension in my personal life that has caused a lot of issues when there didn't need to be. And it was because I misinterpreted his behavior. So I want you to think about that for you. maybe you don't have to share, but if something comes to mind, misapprehension that you've since learned better.
One of the things I've learned in yoga, maybe a few years back, is the idea that it's better to be kind than to be right. In all my life, in my struggles in life, I really study, I really prepare for anything I do, I want to excel. And I have no patience to people who are, you know, idiots or stupid people, stuff like that. I easily brand them. They come to a meeting unprepared and they will try to, you know, I have no patience to them. But I have really offended a lot of people. People who are, I hurt them because of the way I treated them. And when I realized that, those people I still remember that I mistreated, I went to them and apologized.
Oh, good for you.
So not all of them, because some of them I've lost contact.
Yeah.
And although my old friends who were a little bit, I was a little bit aloof to them because I'm a little bit, airheaded. So yeah, that's one thing I've learned in yoga. It's better to be kind
than to be right. So how did yoga help you learn that?
In my own struggles, in my practice first in asanas, I thought I was so strong. I thought because I'm athletic, I really struggled along the way. And after reading some of the texts, especially the sutras and the avidya, you're ignorant. You thought you know everything, but they're wrong, the misconceptions. So a clearing of the mind is the one that really, because you cannot really continue doing a good practice in yoga unless you read. I encourage my students to read some of the texts, and I'm giving them some of those things that they need to read so that they can improve on their practice. But it's not purely physical. Maybe about a few of them went into reading, and it really improved their practice. Swadhyaya to me is a very important part of the niyama that they should also indulge in. So you don't just get this kind of knowledge or just by practicing asanas. So you really have to study. Although the teacher will try to infuse some of them in the practice, but it's not enough. You have to do self-study. So that's what I encourage them to do. And those interested, I give them out the books. I give them the e-books that I have for them to read.
That's great. Thank you, Manny. Kyla, anything come to mind? Misapprehensions.
Well, at first I couldn't think of anything, or I thought of some things, but then I was like, I don't think I fully learned that lesson yet, so I'm not going to share it. But one lesson that I did learn.
So, Ayla, I like your hair.
Thank you.
I continue.
Thank you. One thing that I did learn and that I, still have to remind myself of was that I feel like was just about like control. I feel like, when I have a lot of fear of a situation or just like an experience, I feel like in the past I felt like I had to have like a really tight, grip on it, like hold it, tight and, lock it really, like, like a cage. And I feel like I learned about letting things go, like just release, just being more flexible, I guess, just flexible and less constricted with, and less attached to whatever the outcome may be, or just knowing that I can't control everything, and just knowing that, letting go is an option, and not necessarily always the way, but it is like the option is there to just let go, not to, hurt yourself like by holding on to something. So tightly, whether it's, you know, a relationship or just an opportunity or just the way you want something to be. So definitely that I've learned. You know, obviously there's times where I, you know, really want something and you know, you slip back into stuff like that, but then I will say I am more mindful and I am more mindful. Not and before I don't think I even was aware.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say that some letting go is something that I've learned.
To let go. Yeah. And we learned that on a
You know what, Kyla, there is a saying that I've read. It takes a lot of strength to hold on to something, but you need more strength in letting go.
Hmm, that's good. That's really good.
and we learned that on a physical level, right? When we let go of in certain shavasana, when we let go in shavasana, or when we let go in a restorative pose or a deep stretch, and we learn to let go. We learned that physically, and it kind of helps to let go emotionally, mentally. Of course, we have to be discriminatory too, right? Not everything we do have to hold on to some things. Some things we can let go, some things we don't need to. We
Mm,
can't be completely passive in our
yeah,
lives. Yeah.
I
So
feel like in were you oh sorry, I don't know if we talked at like the same time. Were
no,
you
it's
gonna
okay. Go ahead, finish.
I feel like in the my physical practice, like you were just saying, I definitely know, you know, there's noticing the being able to perceive like the difference between like feeling strength versus like feeling like stiff or like the stress, you know, and that's like for me letting that go. Or just even being aware like, oh, I feel like I'm holding on right here and not in the right area. And then when you release that area, it's like, oh, you just sink into like a whole different position. And
Mm-hmm.
now you feel stronger somewhere else where really that's where the strength should have been in the first place. But maybe you're just scared. Especially like I think anything with the hips, I always feel like a little like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall or something. You know? I think but then mentally you have to tell yourself you're okay, and then you can just like, you know, just melt into it a little more. So
Yeah.
definitely I think the body teaches you a lot about the mind and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So there's that reminds me of. Uh-huh. Good, right? Good. Okay. See, let me find the next point. A next point here, 2.6 says false identity results when we regard mental activity as the very source of perception. And that comes from the 2.5, the commentary. It says, oh no, not that commentary. Hold on. Where is it? Um, oh yeah. Being able to tell the difference between the perceiver and what is perceived. Okay, so going back to yoga, as far as the method or the path to being able to overcome prakriti and to dwell in the purusha, the mind is how we perceive. We perceive through the mind, but not everything that goes on in the mind is permanent. A lot of what goes on in our head is like storms that pass through. So it says here, each of us, there exists an entity that perceives. This is 2.17, Sutra 2.17, page 170. In each of us, there exists an entity that perceives. This is quite distinct from what is perceived, such as the mind, body, senses, and objects. So even what goes on into our mind, in our minds, and what goes on in our body, what goes on around us, what we sense, what we can touch, what we see, those are all impermanent. But what sees those things, the perceiver is permanent. So being able to tell the difference between the two. And when you're able to reside in the one that perceives, then that's where you find that freedom. Says, let me see, where is that? So let's see. Oh, let's go to 2.18 first. All that is perceived includes not only the external objects, but also the mind and the senses. They share three qualities: heaviness, activity, and clarity. They have two types of effects: to expose the perceiver to their influence, or to provide the means to find the distinction between them and itself, from what's perceived and the perceiver.
Wait, which one are you on? Which one were you just reading?
2.18. I read from 2. Sorry, I went to the next one. Page 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because you said 2.81 and I was like, what?
Oh, sorry, 1.8. I did a little dyslexia thing.
2.8.
I dyslexia. Sorry, my dyslexia.
So 2.81.
And then, I think that being able to distinguish like a quality of something, if it's heavy, if it's active, if it's that the quality of being grounded, or I forget what it is in the Ayurveda now. I forget that. That's kapha, the kapha quality, and my words are escaping me. Anyway, heaviness, active is the opposite of heaviness or inactivity, and then clarity. So when we are able to kind of see what we're perceiving and distinguish, oh, this has this quality or this has that quality, then we're able to tell the difference between, we're able to more distinctly tell the difference between what we're perceiving and between ourselves, the perceiver. And then 2.20, that which perceives is not subject to any variation, but it always perceives through the mind. And so the object of yoga is to clear the mind so you can perceive correctly, right? Or to calm the mind so that you can perceive correctly.
Can you say that again?
So the objective, so that which perceives is not subject to any variation, but it always perceives through the mind. So we have to use the mind in order to perceive. So the practice of yoga, the objective is to clear the mind so that we can perceive accurately and we can perceive correctly. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll think about that for a little bit. All right. It's getting into the 8-limbed path now after this. One thing about the 8-limbed path that it emphasizes is that it's not a linear path, that these different aspects, yamas, niyamas, pranayama, asana, on page 174, Sutra 2.29 is where we are. It's listed there. Pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. That these, it's not a linear path. They can happen at the same time. Some can happen earlier than others. Like you can experience samadhi before you even, without even going through the other steps sometimes. So it's in 2.6, Same sutra, it says, whatever is the route most suited for the individual to reach that state in 1.2, which is when the mind is calm, should be followed. They all develop simultaneously as the individual progresses. So the reason why I asked if meditation is part of the practice there in the Philippines is everybody's different, and not just everybody, but cultures are different, peoples are different. And, I just wonder, do they need it? Or are they attaining clarity without meditation?
To me, I compare meditation also to the Catholic's prayers. Especially when they're doing rosary, those are mantras.
Rosary's mantra, exactly.
So to me, just do whatever where you feel good. If you
feel
like doing the rosary as your way of calming yourself, why not?
Yeah.
It works on you.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. Wonderful. Good. I think my job here is done.
I just have a question regarding asana practice and
Yes.
and this perception, this how you perceive.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen some practitioners who are really strong. I think they have their strong core, strong shoulders, and yet when it comes to certain poses, they seem to have a hard time doing it. It's because of fear factor. So fear is a form of perception also. So how you perceive it, how do you help them get over that fear?
The fear. So that's one of the
sometimes at a loss to what to do anymore.
what to do. So that's one of the obstacles is insecurity, right? Which is fear when you're insecure.
How do you tell that?
What are you trying to get them to do?
Actually, that person, they get to more difficult. I noticed that when the head is higher than the ground, it's higher, like in the crow pose, one of the, she cannot do crow pose, but she can do a more difficult pose like the side crow. Side crow is a twisting and it's heavier on one side. She can do it, but when it comes to crow, where the weight is well distributed,
is she afraid of
because of the distance between her head and her face and the ground? That is, I think, what she fears.
So I would
line upside down because I get scared in crow too because it's like because I can do side crow. I feel like even maybe better than regular crow too. Because I feel like you said, your face smashing in the ground is scary, especially for a woman because your face is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your massage.
Yeah.
So I would offer her. It's a female?
Yeah.
Okay.
But she's strong, huh?
She can do a lot of things. So I would try a few different ways. So first of all, ask her why she's afraid. Is there some kind of experience in her past that's coming back up for her? That, and then the other thing would be to do a assist. And this is a tricky one because I'm all by myself. I'll have to get a volunteer to come with me, and I'll show you the assist for crow. And you basically kneel in front of them. You put your knees under their shoulders, and then your hands behind their thighs so that they won't hit the floor because your knees are on their shoulders.
Amy, I've done so many variations of helping her.
Yeah.
I even have a bolster right in front of her face. In case she face plants.
Yeah.
A bolster where she can, land.
Well, maybe she needs a safety. She needs a safety net. Not that in case you fall, but you for sure will not fall.
Yeah.
And then once you support her, once she's in the crow, encourage her to feel what she needs to do physically to be in that pose. Do you have to engage your arms more? Do you have to pull in through your belly? What will it take for you to stay in this pose while there's no danger of falling? And then,
one
and
time,
yeah,
what you told me, I did that already. I stood in front of her with my knee, with my shin
yeah,
under her shoulder. Just lean on that.
yeah.
Instead of leaning, she slipped. She slipped.
Oh, it didn't work?
Really funny.
Oh.
Something's wrong with her. She's my prostrate.
Oh.
Everybody has done it. Those who are even weaker than her has done it. She's
Oh.
the only one who's I'm having. One time I will video her and I show it to you. It's really frustrating. I've done the chairs, I've done the straps, I've done the blocks, the bolster, all that. You know.
I don't know then. You have to talk to her.
She can do the difficult pose. She can do ekapada on vinyasana too.
She just doesn't like to.
Because the face is a little bit closer
Yeah.
to the ground. So.
And it's this way. It's not this way.
It's not face plant.
Yeah.
She can do those things. Those are difficult.
Yeah. So it's definitely not strength. Strength is not the issue.
I have already
determined that. Is there, ask her if there's anything in her body that feels really uncomfortable. Because it is an open wide knee. I mean hips, and it is a lot on the shoulders. Ask her if there's any place in her body.
She can do 3 Sirsasana. Sirsasana 1, Sirsasana 2, Sirsasana 3. The Sirsasana 1 is the one with the head like that.
Yeah.
2 is the tripod. The 3 is when your hands are in front, you know.
I don't know. Ask her if there's any pain anywhere.
Very strong shoulders.
There's no, it's a deep hip flexion also. You know, you have to really pull your knee in.
Entering the pose. She does it right. Except when you have to move forward because you have to balance your butt, especially for ladies. You have to balance their buttocks to their chest. You know, you have to go to the midline to be able to balance the butt. When she's going there, that is where she gets up.
Is she going forward? Is she going forward? Have her go up.
Not to look down. Just look forward when you're moving forward.
Have her go.
I have my knees
on her shoulders.
Guiding on her shoulder.
Have her go up. Think of going up, like lifting her hips up. Instead of going forward, have her think of lifting her hips up, and then as the weight comes into her arms, to push harder into the floor to try to straighten her elbows. I don't know. Those are just suggestions.
Let's see. I'll show you a picture.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I also don't. One thing I don't like, it's like it hurts my triceps having my knees like it.
Right there.
My knees feel so pointy when they're on my triceps.
Yeah,
that makes me want to come out of it quickly.
So figure out what's uncomfortable in addition to what she's afraid of. There might be something about it that's uncomfortable. Okay, I'm gonna share real quick the Manny's.
Oh, I didn't know you have to share that.
Is that okay? Can I share it?
It's okay.
Okay, it's really nicely done. So he's got a grid, right? So here's the.
Why I'm doing those things because I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
Systems man. So I cannot do things. In every class I do, I prepare a lesson plan. I cannot just do it extemporaneously. I really have to prepare.
That's fine.
I have to have a plan. Although in the middle, I will change course, but I have to have something in mind. I have something to guide me.
I think it's awesome. I think it's excellent. So there's a lot of detail here. So there's.
Oh, that's for my guide. That's for me.
Yeah.
I will remember, yeah.
No. I just want to show it as an example of how to organize the information. So here's the pose, the position. That's excellent. So you know where you're coming from. And then any notes are right here. What's 3S? Is that 3 seconds or what is 3S?
No, S is set. Sorry, those are sets.
Like, 3 sets. Gotcha.
3 sets of Surya. The B is the breath. X is the number of times repetition.
Oh, nice.
So that's my code.
That's great. It's so nice.
I put bold and underscore the sites. right, left and right, something. I have to.
Yeah,
This
whatever
is
you,
good, Manny. This is
I
really good.
know.
This is
Isn't it
impressive.
good?
This is impressive. Well, I'm not organized like this at all. My mind goes like do, 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 do.
I also give this to my students so that they can guide them in their self-practice. Because I do
Oh,
self-practice.
nice. Yeah. So you have the warm up, sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3.
And then the fourth is the peak. Going to the
This
peak.
is the peak. Okay, so these are all preparations for the peak. And then you have the cool down. Nice. Yeah, I just wanted to share that. It's really well done. So what would be your method, Kyla, since you're more um, probably more creative brain or something like that. More
I
like
know
how our brains work.
this is super like structured, which is like awesome. Um, so it's giving me like inspiration. My brain was thinking, well, because like I feel like I don't think super linear, but I was like as linear as possible so that someone else can understand. I was probably just gonna do a list.
Mhm.
Um, but I really like what Manny did. Like if I could do this, I would, I I'd love that. I don't know if I could, but I was just thinking more
Okay.
like this.
Well, I just think it's really helpful to have, especially the position where you're
Yeah.
starting from and the notes for you,
Yeah.
right?
Manny, what do you use to make your charts?
The problem I learned sometimes too with creative teachers, they forget some poses on the other side. For example, on one row of sequence, you have 3 to 4 on that side.
Yeah.
And then when they go to the other side, they forget
Yeah.
one pose on the left side. So
Yeah.
I really encourage them to write down the sequence so that sometimes they really forget. That has happened to you in the States.
Sometimes.
Forget.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a good exercise and it's a good discipline you to do, Kyla, as an exercise to learn how to organize the information and put in the details. I think it's a good skill to have. Yeah. And also it gives you a chance to analyze the sequence as you're doing it. You know, does this really work here? How, does this make sense? Is this transition going to work? You can look at it as a whole. And you have it like this with all the details. Um, transitions are really important. I feel so. You know, if you find, oh, okay, now we're standing, now we're on our back, now we're this, but this will allow you to see that. Okay, this is a little jerky right here, and I can switch things around. Okay. So yeah, Manny just said I can share this with you, so I'll send it to you and Amanda.
Awesome. Thanks, Manny.
Yeah,
The
it's
blue one,
beautiful.
the blue one means right side. The yellow one means the left side. The green one means right and left.
Both sides.
Yeah.
So
That's good. That's really good.
so why do you do these poses only on the right?
No, the notes I have of the blue one because you will repeat them on the left side.
Oh, I see. So sequence 1 and sequence 2 is the same thing, just on different sides.
Yes,
Oh,
but
got
on
it.
different side.
Got it. Okay, got it. All right. Thank you. All right. So that's all I have for today. Were you gonna say something, Kyla?
Oh no, I was just saying his chart's awesome. I
Yeah,
love it.
it's beautiful. Nicely
Mhm.
done. So I will end with that. And thank you for being here today. And what I hope to do next week is Manny's going to share with us some functional anatomy.
You
So,
want me to show you the anatomy of that? You can connect the anatomy to that chart. You want that?
yeah, that would be good.
Because this one natin, then I will focus on the general terms.
Mhm.
On the other, focus on the anatomy of that flow. Because I have the corresponding anatomy. On the other side of that Excel format,
Yeah.
I have the what muscles are being used in those poses.
Oh, yeah. That sounds excellent. Okay, sounds good.
So just focus on that because I don't want to be discussing general terms.
Okay, sure. Sounds good. And then we'll also continue with the philosophy, and then I want to start discussing a little more on teaching methodology.
You know what I appreciate in this course is that I am going back to the roots of yoga. Because if you get too much into asana practice, you forget the values and the principles of yoga.
Yeah.
And you get fixated on poses as if you are advancing on your yoga practice because you can do more challenging poses. It's not about challenging poses. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. All right, you guys. So have a good rest of the day. I'll send you the schedule by Sunday. I want to start sending you practice recordings of practice. And then we just have our time together in lecture. I just need a space to make my recordings, and we're working on that right now. So that's what I hope to do next week. I haven't decided yet. One day a week seems to be what we can handle. But we'll, let me know what days work for you.
When do you want me to talk about the anatomy of that flow?
So if we meet next week, it'll be next week sometime. I haven't decided. What day works for you, Manny? I'm trying to time it so that you can go visit your classes.
Friday is a good night for me.
Friday, okay, and which is our Thursday.
Very experienced, so I can be for
Okay. Amanda can't do, so for us that's Thursday. Amanda can't do Thursday. Is there another day that's good for you?
Any day after is good for me. Just that I just prepare Friday. But if there are other days, I don't.
Is Saturday okay for you, Manny?
Yeah.
Saturday. How about Friday? Is Friday night okay for you, Kyla?
Next week. Sure. Fridays aren't the best, but I can make it work if we do like 4 to 6.
Yeah, because then you're still have the evening free.
Yeah.
Okay, so Friday, most likely it'll be Friday, and then I'll pick another day, maybe Wednesday.
Okay, yeah, Wednesday works because Fridays sometimes I pick up Sienna from Davis after work. That should work next week though. I don't think I'm picking her up. But...
Okay, sounds good.
I will go weekend. I didn't your new hairstyle, Kyla, brings out your beauty. You're more beautiful in that sense. When you get older,
Thank you.
to give compliments.
I know, right?
You can easily give compliments out. You're not embarrassed because there's no agenda.
That's right.
Still show your face, face.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's nice because now I know it was a good decision. I'm my own hairdresser, so thank you.
Right, you guys. Good to be with you. Have a good rest of the day. Yeah, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Love you. Bye.
Bye.